so far, Europe has entered into an era of massive religious and other unrest. Many of the major powers are struggling with this. The worst affected are Spain and France, both of which feel like they're kind of on the realm of collapse. Turkey is suffering a little bit of unrest, not just religious. They have tolerance after all, but they have a powerful economy. They've gained some ground and are holding up a little bit better, or quite a bit better than others. England is Protestant for the most part, happy being so. Poland, largely happy with their tolerance regime. Austria somehow has been escaping the religious unrest. There was major, I gotta catch my tea. There were major wars on the last turn. Poland and France both went to war against members of the empire, and Austria stepped in to defend them. Out of everybody involved in this, Austria is doing the best, both in terms of stability and in terms of victory points. There's waiting in the wings the 30 Years' War here, which is marked with these markers. It's a power play. Those are areas of interest. I know for a fact that there's 2 power plays that are going to be triggered in this period, just from the cards, because unfortunately I get to see the cards. Turkey just got out of a war with the Mamluks and has conquered most of their territory, although they saw a revolt come up there. In terms of external advances, Spain has colonized a couple of areas. For the era that we're in, boy, is colonization and exploration way lower than it should be. The game kind of supports because you have limited actions, and maybe because I don't play it as well, you know, I haven't done the Euro optimization type stuff to make sure that my countries are working well in terms of cubes and everything. A lot of these countries are not perhaps doing as much as they should. But then when they do get involved in doing stuff, some other country fucking up, or other countries not doing as well, end up leaving countries with a pile of cubes at times, which is basically this: hey, if 4 people pass, the turn is over. You don't get an opportunity, you know, to use your massive advantages in terms of administrative capabilities. Administrative is wrong. Monarch power and options that are available to you, etc. You might take cheap options. You might do things that don't really use up your cubes very quickly. You may not be able to utilize your full resources to do everything that you think you should be able to do because of that weird turn situation. So if one person who really knows what they're doing is playing the game with a bunch of people who are really bad at it, like me, there's a good chance that that one person is just going to be dragged down by the rest of the players. Now, that's kind of nice from a catch-up mechanism. It's kind of cool in that respect, but it's not so good when you look at trying to represent the history. It's hard to argue that if one country was really, you know, advancing, it depends on in what, but that they would be dragged down by the rest of Europe. Yeah, you could maybe make some hand-wavy arguments. I don't know. In terms of the non-player powers, Portugal has done jack shit. They've taken over some areas in Morocco, but they've done nothing off-board on the rest of the continent. The only person who has, other than, well, the Spanish have colonized twice. England has discovered. France was supposed to, but their internal problems caused them too much issue. But Denmark, mighty Denmark, has maintained its hold on Norway, of course, and unless there's a card, which I don't think there is, for something like the Scandinavian War to cover Sweden getting this back, basically the card that came before could have either given a mighty Sweden here or a mighty Denmark. Now, historically, I think Denmark and Norway, I think this is the Danish position at this time point. Minus that and minus Hamburg, right? But I think this is mostly what Denmark looked like. But it's Sweden that became the dynamic power in the near future. So there's something kind of weird there. We'll see. We'll see. We got Gustavus Adolphus. I saw a card involving him. I don't know if it made it into the deck, though. It might have been a Sweden-specific card for this era, you know? Yeah. The empire's been shrinking. Lost the Italian territories, lost the Netherlands, and Bohemia is a big... Why is this here? This, because Silesia is imperial territory, or was. It's not anymore. Yeah, so we lost Bohemia and Silesia. It's being trimmed down. You can see the power ratio is rather low. At +2, it had gotten all the way down to 0 due to losses, but the Austrians managed to boost it up so that they could defend the empire. I guess still one of the most, oh my God, how did this happen? There's a couple of, wow, this is really weird. So let's take a look at the, wow, this is really weirds that have happened over the course of the game. France's unrest is unprecedented. They've also just recently lost Burgundy. I was going to say Burgundian territories, but they haven't yet taken Avignon from the papacy. Spain, heavy unrest, but the bigger deal with them is that they've never integrated Aragon. And Portugal, they did a single crown event, but it didn't really do much for them. It just didn't hurt them in terms of prestige. England, well, Henry VIII declared Protestantism before any other rulers were Protestant or any other major powers anywhere. Like, not just player powers, but like you weren't seeing serious Protestantism in the Netherlands or in Switzerland. Still don't in Switzerland. It's still Catholic as hell. What's up with that? Or in the Empire or whatever. And it's from England that most of the Protestantism has spread, going down into Spain of all places. And the Inquisition is gone now. It was an idea that didn't get realized. And then a further expansion came from the Danes. So the hearts of sort of Protestant thinking are basically the English and the Danes, with it kind of spreading from there. So that's a little weird. Like I said, the empire's been shrinking. Wars, we have a vassal in Hungary, but we haven't inherited the territory yet. There's war basically waiting to break out there with Turkey. However, you know, without a power play there, maybe Turkey isn't that interested in going in that direction. On the other hand, they do have a national mission or goal to go into Hungary, and, well, we can't beat on the Mamluks this turn. We've got an enforced peace. Maybe it's time, especially with that power play in the center of the empire, to, you know, make Austria make some hard choices and maybe knock them back out of second place. They're getting too close for comfort. No, honestly, the Turks are doing so fucking well. They might not want to take big risks. Poland. Poland has not, also obviously Austria has not incorporated Bohemia. Poland has, but Poland has not incorporated Lithuania. It's still a major goal of theirs. They've still got a ton of cubes out there trying to do it. And trying to catch weirdnesses here. The Turks haven't really put Vienna at threat yet. But you can see they've got the coast of Dalmatia, shit like that. But their big one is, and this is maybe the biggest of the game, is that Naples has been conquered and turned Muslim. Which is really kind of a, wow. Actually, Turkey's probably not doing much of anything. They're in an interregnum here. We actually have a couple of them. Poland's also in an interregnum, which means they're not going to war unless and until they can draw a ruler. And right now there aren't any face up there. The only ruler that's up there is Austria with Ferdinand. People may want to draw for rulers just from regular cards to fix that issue. All right, stop going into detail on the countries, and I still am in terms of their mission choices. I think I've shown way too much of the thinking there. I know some people like it, but again, it makes my life easier to come back and report on what they chose. I'll start with that, but I want to note something. The rules, clarification, correction, whatever, that you can hold, that held cards don't really cost you. Now you got to discard down to 5 at the end of a turn, but the flexibility of having a handful of cards is so valuable that both Poland and Turkey, who have good incomes, although Turkey has some economic issues, they've decided to hold all their cards, or almost all of them. I think I threw one for the Poles. But anyway, I'll start with these two and then maybe just come in for all the rest. So I'm keeping Polish Navy. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to succeed in it, but it's the most likely to succeed if I accidentally blunder into some kind of war, maybe. I don't know. Seems unlikely. But I'm going for the Commonwealth. And it's really the only thing. I mean, I could have done the Polish Navy through diplomacy as well, right? But that would be harder to accomplish. It's own 2 or more ports. I would have to subjugate this, which would cost me almost as much. It's kind of weird because I don't know if this is part of that. You know, like my vassal state has broken in 2. And I don't know what happens. I'm going to treat it as 2 separate countries, but it's not absolutely clear that they are. It's like this part's a vassal of mine, this part's not. Do I have to deal with both of them together? I think not. But I drew a subjugate card, which is what I need for the Commonwealth. It's going to be a tight fit, though, because I don't have a lot of tokens because of the interregnum. And because of the interregnum, I also held on to a king with good diplomacy. We're going to go ahead, push that forward. There's probably a king in here, but they may not be in this half of the deck. They may be, or in this half of the half deck, in this quarter of the deck. They may be in the next half. And same thing goes for Turkey. Although with Turkey, I have this fear that there may not be emperors, or at least not good ones, or sultans, to come forward, because historically, maybe not quite yet, but we're coming on the era where, like, Turkish rulers were dying off rather quickly and everything, and interregnum may be the best, maybe the reasonable solution to that, which means I have to invest in cards in order to keep them. And I have actually 2 leaders plus, oh no, I wouldn't have discarded a card if I held one, because that's free to hold them. I kept 2 leaders. I probably want this one as my king, Sultan Christopher, but this counter-espionage, I'm thinking I'm so far ahead, people might screw with me. And if they're going to screw with me, that can be useful. And especially, look, there's still a spy network out there, man. I don't really want to play it, because in order to get the one goal that I think I can make, the Barbary Coast, I've gotten so many. I'm on the 3s. I've gotten all the 2s, all the 1s, all the 2s, and think I've already gotten one of the threes. So that's why Turkey's winning, right? They're achieving their goals. But anyway, I think I can do the Barbary Coast. It's going to be a hard call whether or not to play that counter-espionage. Maybe I should keep the $2, maybe not, because I'm so far in debt. But debt isn't that much, right? Right? I don't have the bank. The bank's actually weird, because if you have a lot of debt when you pick it up, well, you get to, let's see, you get to remove half of them, okay, because they're double value, basically, or close to it. So, yeah, it would be really a screwage. Anyway, this gives me the opportunity to play a ruler there. Fucked up thing here, I need to get 6 provinces. I got 4, I need 2 more. Tunisia would do it for me, as would Algiers. Cyrenaica and Tripoli will not. This is a big deal because, oh, look, they captured it from Tripoli. How about that? They can do that. But I was drawing for a subjugation, just like the Poles were. Those are such important cards, man. I'm beginning to value them the most of all the cards. They are the one that, like, I can't seem to you know, I'm constantly in need of, because it allows you to meet goals, because a lot of them are vassalized or can own, which, you know, vassalization is fairly easy. You throw a few cubes in there, you play a 1-point diplomacy card, and boom, you got it. You know, in Spain have too many internal problems to deal with, so, you know, you're drawing for admin cards, whatever. Not necessarily holding as much. France is holding one of them damn subjugates. Would love to use it, and, you know, I could have, but I was low on cubes or whatever. You can see I used up all my dip cubes last time. Spain got a nice draw. Basically what I'm saying there is neither one of them, or trying to say, but I didn't get to the point. Neither one of them could do anything with their goals. You know, still going with the Guinean coast, still going with Spanish Main. The other ones seem unlikely. But Spain grew both exceptional year and a man of the church. Very, very appealing. So I made my third draw a diplomacy one, which I threw away because it had an advisor who was equivalent to this, and it was like a spy network. I think I'd rather have the naval tradition than the spy network, if I make that choice. But I think the most likely thing is that's going to get tucked in under here. And that's the big difference. So this being able to hold the cards without having to pay for them at the end of each turn, playing by the rules and all, that's why a lot of these countries have, like, no capabilities. Now, granted, Spain went into a disastrous bankruptcy, which drove all their advisors away, whatever. But one of the things is, one of your real limitations is how many cubes you have. If you've got a full slate of advisors, you're pulling in at least 3 additional cubes and getting a lot more strength in terms of what you can do and whatever. So that was a major, major reason for why the European powers aren't doing as well as they should probably, is that, damn man, you know, I wasn't running my countries in a way that created, you know, that created the number of cubes I need. Although, I come here and look at Poland, and I'm like, well, you don't have a lot of cubes. Yeah, but they got an interregnum, and they used up their hand. Whereas Spain and France don't have a lot of cubes, and they have real rulers. And when I looked at England, I have cheated. They have all their 1 level, but I took this one, 3E. I shouldn't have even been allowed to have this. So, let's see. They got 3 cubes in an area with their state religion. That was these. And 3 of this. I can't even pick this. It shouldn't have been out there. Well, I think the English, yeah, they're taking some administrative cards here. Central authority, which will help them control some things. It would be useful for me to get myself into owning either Scotland, all of Scotland, or all of Ireland, but It's not trivial to do. I feel like the Maritime Empire is something I can play for pretty easily. Settle in America. I can't manage at this point. Let me take the Dominate the British Isles. Even though neither one is really plausible for me, but Settle in America I can almost certainly do next turn, because I'm gonna probably settle this one, but it's 2 or more of the locations, which means I have to do another exploration, get another cube, all that kind of stuff. And settling here is going to cost me 3 admin cubes. It's kind of like the way the French settlements went, right? Where the government was very heavily involved in who can go, who can't, and stuff like that, so no Protestants went, etc. That was kind of a hard call. For the Austrians, well, the cards I had aren't really possible. I could go back to going to war with Turkey, but I don't want to. We're ready for the 30 Years' War here. So I kept Iron Crown of Italy without any real hope on it. But I have a shot at Defend the Empire. Maybe not this turn, but Franche-Comté is open now. So there's that. And my draws, a Man of the Church, which will let me take absolute control of the church. And then, I don't know, I think I'm going to use the Royal Marriage, which means I probably want to use Maria as an advisor. I'm planning on trying to do the 30 Years' War without fighting. I don't know. Will the event allow it? I really don't know. We'll see. There's this, chastise Protestant electors, but I don't know. None of these are really, both of these are kind of cool, right? Unfortunately, I think I'll never be able to get the goal of, I don't remember what it is. One of their goals requires that they be Counter-Reformation. I think that card's gone. I think the one card that allows, the Council of Trent is the one thing that would have allowed a Counter-Reformation state to exist. And yeah, it's not happening. Not that historically it would have been Austria anyhow. So that's a pathway that they just didn't take, couldn't take, whatever. So I don't mind that much that they can't have it. I am kind of pissed that Spain didn't get it. That Spain can't go Counter-Reformation. And that the Inquisition doesn't exist. And all that kind of stuff. The one nation that I tend in the old EU to pick as a Counter-Reformation state is the Spaniards. Everyone else pretty much stays Catholic. There are big advantages to, in that game, everybody's given a choice, right? In this, is it everyone? Yeah, everyone gets the chance to become Counter-Reformation. But only if someone picks this. And the 2 people who had an event left when that came up didn't want to pick it. Now that's where knowledge of the deck plays an important role in being able to play, right? To be able to play historically or whatever, to get a historical result or anything like that. I rather like that the players didn't know what was going to cause this. And that's part of the feeling that I have in mind about randomizing the event decks. I kind of don't want the players to know what the events are actually going to be. So if I can come up with a way that, shuffles the event deck and puts some of it in play, some of it not, the Council of Trent may or may not even be available, much less that a player can choose it. I like that kind of randomness. I can understand why some people would prefer to be able to know the whole deck, know what's coming and plan for it and prepare and everything. There's enough planning and preparation in this game already for me. And what there's not is enough variance in terms of, like, if I'm following, the scenario as written in the book, which I am, mostly. then, you know, everybody could know exactly what's available. So people will hold off on taking an event because they want to make sure that they get that one if they want it. You know, Spain would have almost certainly liked to be counter-reform. Honestly, most of the nations, most of the Catholic nations, probably want to be counter-reform because that gives them something that they can counter the Protestants with. It's not going to defeat the Protestants. Inquisition in conjunction might, though. Anyway, I think that's it, possibly for the night. We're set up with the boat over on the poles. And, hey, they have a navy, man. Sort of. I don't know what happens if they lose their base. I think if they lose their base, I think the problem is that it would be, then they're subject to storms. They could keep their ships at sea. Of course, they'd have to pay for them and everything. Maybe it's better just to scuttle them, but whatever. I don't know what I'm doing nor why. I walked up here, put my tea in my lighter down, and started running the English when it's the pole's turn. And I just have no idea. It's total brain fart. Anyway, I undid what I did, but really annoying. Maybe I looked at the National Bank and it immediately got me started to think about England or something. I just don't know. Poland has one big goal, and I spent my 3 diplomatic cubes, get a free one for my benign diplomats, and I have enough cubes now running through Lithuania and a subjugation card that, hey, I'm going to do it, man. And pretty damn exciting, actually. But I've got to do a reorg first. With that, I need to play this. I appoint King Hernan of Poland. Boy, something else fucked up. And I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I've got this army over here with nothing in it. This army has been removed from the board and has the 2 infantry, 2 artillery. Now, I built this army up, and I think it should be somewhere, but I don't know why the losses came from that army. They may have been fatigue losses that I was taking off of them. These guys should be here if that's the case. So I'm just going to go with that. I don't know if that's correct or not. I wanted to use my army to solve this problem here. I may just build... I hate to use a cube to build a single little army. And there's no longer a mission for a grand fleet or anything like that, right? Oh, are the English up to this? Occupy 4 more trade protection slots. Yeah, the English got this, right? They can claim it now if that's the case. 4 more trade protection next to 2, yeah. Did I give them the points already for it? I hope not. They picked this. Ah! Yes, I must have. I see what happened. Things got bumped. That's what happened. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I thought I had scored that already. But yeah, I'm really kind of at a loss with the Turks now. Unfortunately, they have an interregnum. The Poles assigned a king. I might as well too. There might be things that are bad if you're in an interregnum. I kind of don't like to waste the card if something's going to come up, but on the other hand, something bad might happen if I don't waste the card. Turks will build a small army there. I also built another galley ship. not another, but a galley ship. Put that in my fleet and put the light ship out. My intention there is to be able to do a trade action. I'm a little low on money. I was thinking about building more, but I kind of don't want to waste the money, but I kind of want to be able to do stuff. I don't know. All right, the French want to get started on their exploration stuff. I know I should be doing other things that are, you know, more vital to my nation, right? Oh, but here's the thing. I may want to trade first. See, no, I got enough ships I can get away with this. I say. Oh, we send a ship off. 1, 2. Let's see what we find. Hey, we find an area. Area 1, Angola. Is that on my list? Own 2 or more of these, Mali, Gold Coast, or Benin. Well, Angola is my only choice, so I mean, I gotta take it. I added a single card to the trade deck. The remaining ones are 3 and 4. I guess you're supposed to find Africa first or something, you know, like the Portuguese actually did. But what I'm still disturbed by the instructions, which are add all unused trade cards matching the number of the continent and reshuffle the deck. Doesn't tell you whether you reshuffle the discards in or not. And I can make an argument either way. In terms of not reshuffling the discards in, I could almost guarantee, you know, let's say it was a very small deck, 1 or 2 cards, that the next trade action is going to involve that new card, right? That new desirable card, at least for me, you know, and other people know that it's in there and may want to bone it or whatever. But, so that feels like it might be wrong, but maybe that's actually right, because, hey, the new stuff is discovered, it's more valuable, it's more likely to come up and everything. And on the other hand, what I've done is I've just reshuffled and mixed in all those old trade centers, which if there was some sort of concept of things should be kind of balanced, well, that balance has just gotten reshuffled, right? You know, it's like, yeah, all the stuff that came up can come up again. Which one makes more sense? I don't know. I don't know. But this is what we went with before, so we keep going. It's, you know, in some ways, although the old EU was just a mess, right? The rules are an absolute mess, and no, it's not just a matter of translation. I felt like I could reason out a lot of the problems where things were kind of ambiguous like this. You know, here, yeah, maybe, but it's a lot harder because there's this layer of abstraction of like, you know, what do these cards actually represent? What is the whole mechanism? What was the whole concept here? You know, or is it just a gamey device? And should I be looking at it only from the point of view of gameplay? I don't know. You know, I really don't know. Like, is it some attempt to simulate more than it appears automatically, sort of? And I feel like it is. I feel like it is. I feel like there's a lot going on in this game that's kind of covered up by some of the mechanisms here. And they may be just trying to represent the computer game in a similar fashion, but still, the computer game is making an attempt to represent reality. So, yeah. Turns Leon back to Catholic. That's just too ugly coming down there, but I've got so much religious problem, I don't know. I did that with the Man of the Church card. It's cheaper than converting the province cube-wise, and I don't have a huge quantity of cubes. Do what I was going to do before. I don't even think any further. Exceptional year. I'd actually already flipped this and didn't unflip it, so whatever. But yeah, a hard time with Austria. They basically don't have anything that they particularly want to do. There's the 30 Years' War here, but I'm out of alliances and marriages. Now, I could pull one off out of somewhere and put it in an HRE area using, you know, like my, well, I got a royal marriage. I could build an alliance though with cubes, spending cubes to do it. Another option is the Catholic League card, which I could turn something Catholic. I think Catholicism has lost. You know, I think the fact that there's no counter-reformation means that Protestantism is going to spread everywhere. I could grab Ferdinand here, which would get rid of lousy or good Rudolph and replace him with someone much worse. Someone who is already sick, by the way, which I probably ought to put a marker for. So that doesn't really help me. The big bonus there is I'd gain a military for every elector area that's Protestant, but I'd also get two alliances with Catholic NPRs that are in, which, you know, I could just pull out of here. And where else am I allied that I don't necessarily want? There should be 3 alliances, right? Ah, yes, down with the papacy. Unfortunately, those kind of help me with the Catholic League thing. That is a goal if I go to war with Turkey, or not, I don't know, not the Catholic League, the Holy League or something, I don't know. I don't know what it's called. Let's look. Yeah, this is Spain. Picked the wrong country. Spain, Habsburgs. Yeah, this is the one I can't do. The Holy League. Yeah, lots of different leagues that sound too similar. I don't know that I want to do that. You know. It would get me more points, though, in 30 Years' War if I move those there. And as to my own stuff, well, now, the claim causes me problems. Not real problems. I mean, you can ignore your claims, but if I go to war, if the emperor does not have a casus belli when declaring war against one of their subjects, they'll lose this. If an imperial subject declares war without a casus belli, the emperor gets a casus belli on the capital. Okay, imperial subject, not. So this card would allow me, it would give me a claim to one of the Protestant areas, and then I could go attack that. That's not unappealing. What was the other option there? I thought there was something that gave me marriage. No? The emperor? Oh, I get 2 alliances with Catholic NPRs in the HRE. Oh, okay. Who's Catholic, who's not? Brandenburg's Catholic. Yeah, I think we're going to play this, but we don't have to play it yet. Would somebody else play it? I don't know. We're pretty far ahead on the track, man. I don't know. I can't think straight. One nation in the most financial trouble, I think. Everybody else has a big 25 gold piece on them. I do not. I'm not sure I'm ready for, doing the 30 Years' War. And if, so there's two things. One is the alliances, I could grab, say, something here. Oh, this isn't part of the HRE anymore, is it? Yes it is. So I could grab an alliance with Burgundy, which would get me into the realm of that Franche-Comté. I mean, I think I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do it right now, because does this give me a declaration of war? No, it just gives me a claim. Yeah, I think this may be the best move that I can make, and then start operating in that direction. The only question is whether there was any diplomacy or something I wanted to do to get my realm in better order. I can build my army after I do this. So, Austria Catholic gains 2 alliances with Catholic NPRs. One of my alliances is already here with Lorraine. I hate taking these, but I'm gonna take one off and put it on Burgundy, which is now allied with me. And, oh, that's not a point area though. Geez, no, don't want that. So my alliances were with Florence and with Rome. Let's see. Brandenburg is definitely a great choice. It's got a lot of stuff. Saxony is Protestant. That might be who I go to war with. In which case, I'm looking maybe Bavaria. Now, calling them in isn't really helpful because, again, I don't have the cash to fund their armies. But wasn't there a... No, there's not a card. Yeah. All right. I don't have anything in either of those, so Brandenburg and Bavaria, as I start munching hairy nuts. It's a Eurorails reference. Okay, so I chastise Protestant electors. How many electors are Protestant? Saxony is 1. This is not. This is not. I think Saxony is the only Protestant elector. So all I get is 1 military cube from this, which really doesn't look like much. Ah, well. And I get a claim to Saxony. I got a claim in Bohemia too, whatever. This guy dies, but Ferdinand II goes in there and can't... There we go. I'm going to keep the little marker on him because of that. This is era 2. And is that all? We draw another card. Our new one is Witch Trials. You gain a military and an unrest. Then twice, pick an area with a town that's either a Catholic area adjacent to a Protestant area or vice versa. Add unrest to 2 towns or vassals in that area. Players with towns in the targeted area or areas adjacent to them lose a stability. Players with Protestant may immediately remove all unrest thus gained in the area, but they'll place a diverse faiths token in the area. And we got more Protestantism growing. Wow. Yeah, without the counter-reform, things are going to be ugly. And the boat sails on. And we'll see if I remember 2 things. 2 things that are important right now. Poland has to absorb Lithuania. Huge. It's going to turn Poland into a monster. Well, it's going to be a vassal. They're not going to actually absorb it. But yeah, that's going to turn them into a monster. And then this the Austrians have to get themselves ready for a war, and that's going to mean re-gearing their economy and everything. And oh, not nice. And I got to go back downstairs for quite some time, so I don't know. I don't know if I'll remember all this. Continue comparisons, though. In the old EU, the areas that turn Protestant, they are fixed. The whole Protestant Reformation is entirely sort of a static thing. In the computer game, I don't remember how it worked in the older versions actually, but in the newer versions it's much more like this. Much more fluid, reminds me more of things like Here I Stand, or the interesting thing, it's basically Here I Stand set in Eastern Europe, this time of wars, or very similar, but don't just run out and buy it because you love Here I Stand. Watch my review on it and whatnot, because the game has a lot of issues. They're still compiling errata on it, essentially, and you know, maybe someday they'll reprint it with a real rule book that includes all that errata. But right now, you'd be dealing with a mess the size. No. I was going to say the size of the old EU, but no, no. But it is a big mess. There is a lot of stuff in cards. You know, it's not so much that things are wrong. And actually, what I found with that game, which is really weird, whenever questions are brought up, the designer basically agrees with the text as written in the rule book, in the sense that, like, yeah, these weird things that you think might be mistakes, they're not. They're real. So there may not be that many errors. There's just this feeling that there are more errors. So a lot of people are coming with, you know, questions, clarification questions and whatnot. For the most part, if you follow the rules strictly, as obscenely weird as that may seem, you're getting what they intend. Usually. There are a couple of places where it's just not clear what they're saying, though. And it really is hard to figure out. But my playthrough actually went pretty close to what was intended, because I stuck to the rules very closely compared to, you know, I was like, well, this can't be. Let's see. And yeah, it is. But yeah, that more fluid kind of religious alignments and whatnot, that is much more appealing to me. I like there to be the ability to have influence on it. The problem is Catholic nations fighting against the Protestant scourge all on their own is going to be tough. It's going to be real tough. Any Protestant nations next to you or near you are going to keep infecting you, right? And without the Counter-Reformation to sort of counter-infect and, you know, just create waves going back and forth, I mean, things would be very, very fluid with both on the board. But without the Counter-Reformation present, I'm really not sure the Protestantism can be stopped. You can see what it did. I mean, it swung down to here, it's pushing into here, and the only thing that's in the way is man of the church, and, you know, which is pretty limited as a card, and these convert area actions, which if they become your priority, you're going to be tied up in trying to fight the religious war constantly as the ruler, and it might be better just to give in and become Protestant, because it's easy, right? Protestant areas are going to infect any of your heresies or anything like that. So, like, you know, if somebody missionaries, you can change Muslims to Protestants, you can change, you know, diverse faith to Protestants. It's just really, really powerful. So, yeah. Still braining, and, you know, one of my avoidance techniques is to fuck my sleep schedule up so that I can't do the things that, like, I kind of dread doing, right? With shopping, I mean, I can live, right? I don't really want to go out in this shit anyway. But the problem is, it's also coming time that, like, my taxes are due. Now, I can always file an extension. I've done that before. But of course I didn't do it already. And it's just such a fucking mess for me. Anyway, on to the polls. I don't have a lot of sleep, very little in fact, a couple hours, but what I do remember is I am supposed to reorganize and get at least one cube into diplomacy. My diplomacy is pretty good. Actually, I'm going to take the military cube. I don't know. Yeah, because my admin sucks. Although I do have a backup admin dude in case something triggers his death, which is quite possible. Now, there are two other things I can do. I could discard cards, but I have the powerful subjugate card. Or there's something that allows me to look at, and the way I interpret it, the top few cards of the discard pile, although the wording is fucked up, so I'm not sure that's, I'm not at all sure that's what is meant, right? This is kind of like that Times of War game where I'm making stuff up absolutely uncertain that it's what's actually meant, but it is the only way I can kind of reconcile what's going on, unless the player's discarding more than 5 cards. And then they draw one of the cards that they just discarded by paying. But you have to pay cubes to do that. But this is very interesting, because remember, the subjugate card I think is incredibly powerful. When the Poles play that, well, the Turks could do a reorg and buy it, you know? So it's kind of nifty, actually. And I think it costs 2 cubes, though, which, you know, really kind of, let's see. Change national focus. Discard up to 3 cards from your hand, which could be 0, I guess. Then draw 1 card fewer than you discarded from any of the action decks. And then it says you may pay only 1 cube and $2 to pick one of the new cards from the top 5 discards of the deck. So, what I'm not sure is, are you drawing cards and throwing them on the discard and then you can pick? Or are you doing, see what it says here is it says draw 1 card fewer than you discarded from any of the action decks. Top 5 discards, pick one of the new cards from the top 5 discards of the deck. I mean, I really don't know if you're allowed to basically buy one of the new cards that you just pulled, which is actually how it looks if you read it strictly, because of that new cards thing, or if you get 1 card fewer and then you can buy cards, or a card. Only 1. If it's that former one, it's a really, really weak ability. You're throwing a lot of cards and hoping you draw something that you really need, which it could come in handy. You know, you need the subjugate, you go for it. But if you throw away get cards, 1 less than you threw, and get to buy a card from there, it's rather powerful. From the top 5 discards, it's rather powerful because somebody throws a subjugate and you get to take it. I don't know. Anyway, I've been playing it that you get the cards that you draw, because that's generally what happens when you draw cards, but it doesn't say and put them in your hand. It also doesn't say and discard them. It leaves it in this sort of realm of uncertainty, where it's like, yeah, okay, I draw the cards, I'm holding them, and now what? Tell me what to do with them. Because if it didn't have that final portion, I would just put them in my hand. With that final portion, I'm just left in this incredible confusion. On to Turkey. So I go into too much detail. Now, Turkey's got a shit situation. No question. I got a couple of rulers I can put in. We've already kind of talked about this. Not many cubes. I don't remember what I did last time. I built the army. Yeah. Okay. I sieged that. Good, good, good. Figured out what I was supposed to do. That's important because I'm at the point where I'm like considering taking this Privateers card. It gives me a couple of bucks. I'm short on cash. Not all that short, but I have a bunch of loans. I don't have a lot of cubes. I'm not going to be able to do much. Moving the game forward would be great, but there could be something that's really important to me in these 3 cards. And even if I knew all the cards, I wouldn't know whether or not it was there or in the next 7. France throws a cube and all its money to build this army and this fleet. That fleet's important because, hey, look, just like Britain, we've got enough ships, and other people could have done this. Turkey could have probably done this. However, they're a little low on money and they're doing other things, and you can get caught up in it. But yeah, how about 3 victory points and 2 admin cubes? I hope I gave them to the English. Huh. Jesus, I have a lot of admin. I can colonize. That's not what I'm doing, though. I'm building this big old army here. I put an artillery in. That'll make sieging cheaper. I'm still going to have to spend 2 cubes unless I throw more money in. 4 more bucks for another artillery. No, it doesn't help. Okay. That put me in place for the battle. I'm going to assign my king here. I could put a general there, but my king is a good general. He's a good king, too. And, shit. Pipe is not working for me. This is not an NPR, so I think it doesn't get a general. Oh boy, gotta look that up again. And this is the thing, I can't remember, right? But I know where to find it. It's in the combat section, and I think it specifies. Can I build that much army there? Yeah, hell yeah. I think it specifies in the battle prep. Nope, that's not where it specifies. Okay. Huh. Well, that's a good sign that there can't be a leader there, I say. Looking for the other rule that it might be at, which is NPRs in combat. I don't know where the fuck that is. Do we have rebels in combat? Rebels will fight just like NPR units, except they always fight to the last man. 36. NPR behavior. Okay, so here we have problems. Yeah. NPR always act as infantry. Where do we have? I don't know where we have it. If there are only NPR defenders and they have a total of 3 or more units, draw a card from the top of the military deck. Well, just like means I should draw it. Last time I didn't draw it because I read this and the only place I remembered seeing this was if there are NPR defenders. I'm like, well, there aren't, so I'm assuming that doesn't work for this. Yeah, it does. Missed it last time, no big deal. Oh boy, we got one though. Okay, and we have 4 armies there. We get 3 of these blue dice. But the French have their own advantages. They have artillery, and they don't have the artillery dice. We kill the general, or wound him. That will kill this entire force. So I'll take them off. But their general gets a full 3 dice because the French do not have the veterans or whatever they are. And the king gets hit and takes like 4 hits to the French army. I hope I took this from the right place. I'm assuming I did. And we walk over here. We can't keep this on the table at all times, but when I really need it, I can just have it present. The French did win the battle, however. I don't reshuffle this until somebody needs to draw. That's not part of the rules. That's just a general convention I have. Since we won a battle, we get a cube. This moves forward. And that's kind of part of it, is that like winning battles means that you get to cycle through your stuff. Now 2 cubes will get me that siege, but I'm going to have to do some kind of reorg or something to take care of this. I could have built troops, I think, in both areas. That would have been kind of clever, except, yeah, it would save me moving this army in there. But of course, I didn't feel terribly comfortable with even the 6 units that I put in there, including a cannon. And we can see, yeah, probably did the right thing by not putting it there. Opening about, like, in addition to excusing why I'm so tired, but about my avoidance techniques, was to, in addition to being tired, or in consequence of being tired, a consequence of me being tired, is that I'm probably just going to play 1 round and go down and try to take a nap or something, because I'm just not, you know, not too incompetent, I think. About usual. Played an exceptional year card. I don't know why I jumped. I think I built my army to siege these things, but I actually didn't need this army. I don't know, that's 2 regular infantry, so I couldn't siege much. I'm actually not really sure what the hell I'm up to there. And I'm still allowed to be here because I own a province there. Yeah. And it's possible that could get taken somehow. I don't know. Yeah, it could revolt. Yeah. Yeah. But I think if it revolts, that generates troops instead of disappearing. So I'm not sure everything's right there. Anyway, onward. English blow a cube to trade, and it is not pretty. Ivory Coast. That's gotta be in Africa, yeah. I can't reach that. The reason I did it, I also don't, I can't go there, I think, without exploring. I'm not entirely sure what the rules. See, there's no discovery here, so I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm allowed to sail out there without exploring. Probably wouldn't be helpful anyway. Because what Explorer allows you to do, it doesn't find you the sea zones, it finds you the land areas. Okay, but there's something kind of whacked about being able to sail. Like, if I was here, and let's see what this Ivory Coast says. Ivory Coast, yeah. So, let's say I was Spain. I could, and I had another fleet kicking around, you know, down here in the Central Atlantic. I could just sail into here, drop a merchant there, and do this trade action. You could make some arguments about why I could perhaps do that, because there was trade with North Africa at least. But I think that's covered more by this, you know, or Northwest Africa. It was really kind of this, once you went past there, it started getting iffy. So like Mali and stuff, yeah, maybe you could trade with, but you sure the hell, well, Gold Coast, there was trading going down there. So yeah, you could argue it, but I much prefer the exploration rules that the old EU had, and the computer game also has, where sailing into unknown waters to you cause you problems. Of course, that instigates a whole bunch of rules, or at least a small number of rules, surrounding rudders and such not, and, you know, knowledge of areas becoming common. It takes, I believe, 2 turns for knowledge of areas to become common. So as long as somebody explored the area already, I don't mind that other people can go there, but I am rather disturbed that, like, yeah, I could go here and then I could be out here, you know, without much happening. Now, anyway, the Brits drew nothing that's useful, so I can't move any of my ships, which is what I wanted to do off that cube. I could have played a military cube to move my ships to a single place, but yeah, not only do I not get to move my ships, but I also only get a couple of bucks. Okay, I'm confused. Ah, yes. Did I play this? I did, and I didn't mark it. That's what happened. Because I knew I got marriages or something. I got 2 alliances with Catholic NPRs. Now, the problem is, there's another one here, Protestant Union. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to play that anyway. I might like its effects, but it would mean moving alliances into these areas too to score more prestige temporarily. Okay, so I have a royal marriage, but I have no way to play it. Which is leading me to think about putting it here. I have a man of the church, which might be very useful because I'm thinking whatever I do over here diplomatically, I may have to echo somewhere else, either in the Balkans or in Italy or whatever. I could increase stability. Nope, don't have that much. I'm thinking I'm probably going to buy me a cardinal. But before I do that, maybe I want to do something else. I have claim to Saxony. That was the deal. That was the interesting thing. Okay, I guess I gotta build me an army. Oh, I think I gotta build it in Austria. Moves us back to the beginning. I almost want to keep going, just because I want to make sure Poland does their thing. I want to make sure Austria does their thing. So Problem is I'm low on tea. As chatty as possible. I was just about heading down. But while you may, I may come up here and do a little bit while my tea's brewing or whatever, some of the times chat about something. I can't really play while that's going. I know I have this like pressure on me when the tea's brewing or boiling or getting there. But this was kind of funny. As I was getting down to go, I picked up my lighter, I picked up my teacup, and I grabbed this instead of my pipe and just started to head down. My pipe's over there. Just, brain's not completely working right, but yeah, I think for the game it's okay. Back, and Poland spends its subjugate card, and now it has a massive, massive Poland and Lithuania. We owned or vassalized it all, so we gain a claim or 2 cubes in some of these places. I don't know what we want, but we want the 4, and to get the card out of the way. Call as to which are more valuable. Like, okay, cubes, you kind of don't want to put your cubes out because you might need them, but claims are also a limited resource. Here's the thing, I'm actually limited. I can't vassalize much more, which means I want to absorb something. I mean, it would be great if I could absorb all of Lithuania. That's going to be an expense that requires a lot of cubes and another subjugation card. But I threw the claims out, actually, given the subjugation issue, because if somebody takes these, I'll get claims. If somebody, if they revolt, I may not. That's the one problem. And these areas are Orthodox. So that gives me 2 Orthodox, a diverse, Protestant. I've got a little bit of problem in those kind of things. However, cubes can also get you stuff back. So I'm gonna start, I gotta find my mission. It's 2 cubes in each? Yeah, 2 cubes in each. I kind of don't like wasting cubes, but I honestly think that they might be my most valuable way of getting things under my control. Yeah. So that's the polls. I have a couple of things the Turks might want to do. They might want to cure some of this unrest. They really do want to. It's getting to a problematic level. I'm kind of relying on, hey, get lucky dice rolls with this and the tolerance, you know, the couple of re-rolls on the tolerance to be able to clear some of this. So I'm going to actually play this. But the thing that led me to think maybe I shouldn't was the privateers, because then I could do a trade. If I get these guys out of there, that would be helpful. I've got money. I got some, but not as much as I'd like. But in order to scare the pirates away, I would need to pay a military cube. I think I'm still better off just getting rid of unrest. I think that's my bigger concern right now. But let's do the reorg. But we got so many damn cards. So let's think about this. Military is useful for 2 reasons. These 2 leaders are approximately the same. I'm going to take the military one and keep him as my potential king. I don't know if I'm going to play him or not. I'll throw these 3. I get, ooh. Do I want to keep that card? Do I just throw 4 cards and hope for that I get a king by the end of the turn? Because this is not that great a card. He could be a general or an admiral. He's better than this one. I'm going to throw 3 cards and draw 2. What am I going to draw with my 2? Well, and I believe this is in order. Of course, I've lost my page. I was on this particular place. Okay, so these are numerically indicated, which to me means I think I have to choose the cubes before I draw anything. And what do I want to draw? Good question. I get 2 draws. I'll draw an admin card. Exceptional year. Always good. Too bad I made my choice already, huh? Potential king in hand. Do I want another military card? Military doesn't seem as useful. I'm going to draw another admin because I already have a king. I get another king, and this harbor refugees, which again, I don't have the admin to play. I'm going to play my ruler because I don't particularly want this card, and I do want the ruler in place. There might be something that fucks with you if you've got an interregnum. Using both hands, one of them was stabilizing the table, but I was using my right hand, which should be better. I made a mess. I don't know what my stability was. I don't know a damn thing. I can run downstairs and check on video. I guess was close, but the stability was one worse. Everything else I got right. That's something that doesn't happen when you're tracking everything on paper and keeping track of, you know, all the important stuff on paper. Yeah, you might bump a counter or something, whatever, but something like your national stability or something, I gotta say. Well, it's a mixed bag. Because there's something really nice about being able to just look. I don't know. I think theirs was fine. I really don't know. That one I can't check as easily. I don't know when I bumped it. All right, on to France. So, actually, before, one of the big things about sleepiness and being overly tired is I become more clumsy. A quick pair of sieges over there. And the question is kind of interesting. Do I let Cordoba just remain in rebellion? Don't know quite what that would cause. It's kind of painful in terms of this, but in terms of cube effects, etc., I think I'm actually better off curing 3 of my unrests, preventing myself from getting as many problems. So I too am going to reorg. I'm not in the lead. Shift this over. I don't have enough cards to do anything. I don't have enough cubes to do anything too interesting, and move the boat forward. Trade action was probably a bad choice, although I was trying to keep my options open. But I think it makes more sense for me to colonize New England here. Because I don't have colonized North America yet. Again, that would require 2 successes. It would require more than I can possibly get. I guess the only option was if I wanted to go for something like National Bank. But honestly, National Bank, I don't know, doesn't really help right now. Getting the colony, getting more income in. But the biggie is this trade zone now has an addition. If I'm triggering this trade zone somehow, which would be a connection either here or here, I would be getting, now I have a question. Have light ships adjacent to 5 or more maritime trade zones. You don't actually have to have them connected. That's interesting. But anyway, if I had this trade zone connected here, trade protection going into England, it would give me an additional possible town for triggering this. And maybe you have to have a town to trigger, you know, if it's like wood or something, you have to have a whole colony in place to exploit it. Austria declares war on Saxony. Moving in because I don't have anything there. That's going to create, I believe, 3 cubes of stuff. Give me an area to convert. Not 3 cubes, 3 armies. I do not get any imperial support for this. This is me attacking an HRE, but I have a right to attack it because of that claim. So that doesn't cause me any problems. Do I want Ferdinand there? I could buy a general if I had one. I don't have one. I'll put Ferdinand there just to make sure. 3 is not 4 or more. I think 4 was the limit. Can't remember. See, this is the thing. There's these piddly little things in this game that are like, you got to look something up. You know most of it, but you don't quite remember enough of it. And I'm not saying I don't have to look up as much in the old EU. I probably do. But somehow it's more annoying. 3 or more units. Okay, how about that? I was wrong. No big shock. Good thing I looked it up and didn't just, you know, buff it away, and I almost did, to tell you the truth. But yeah, you know, there's these little things where you think you know it or something, and you may just not be right. You know, it's not like in general. The kind of things you're looking up in the old EU weren't sort of core rules stuff, usually. Every now and then, maybe, because things are rare, but certainly not in the combat system. Once you get used to the combat system, you just get used to it, right? Once you get used to filling out the economic forms, you know 9/10 of the turns, you don't have to look anything up. You know it. Not here, because there's these weird little things. Okay, I got to shuffle. And the survey says no general. Okay. Now we get to fight. So I've got my 3 armies plus 2 for my sickly king. He started out wounded, that's what this means, but I'm just reminding myself. Just like I wanted to with the little markers there. There's no way he could have 2 of them. So that's 5 dice. And then I'm not going to have much of a bonus. I just have Janissaries on my side. Okay, I whack the shit out of him. And then on his side, Prussia gets 3 dice. Well, Brandenburg. It's not Prussia. Prussia's over here. Uninherited. And they cause 1 hit to the Austrians. These go away. And we're established there. And I need to put a little war marker there, don't I? Because I did not remember that. That eats my cubes. Why do I have cubes there? Did I put them there on purpose? I don't know. I did earlier, thinking that I would involve myself there. I didn't know, hey, I can just... Oh, no, not Brandenburg. That's Saxony. Yeah, I can just invade Saxony. Let me make sure this points to something Saxon so that I'm not attacking whatever it is. That moves the boat, and it is time for me to say goodnight. But, you know, in my pipes video or whatever, I mentioned this one. A tiny, tiny little one. I have a couple of these. You'd think maybe they're intended to be pot pipes or something. I don't know. My pipe company sells these. I don't know what they're going to be. And it's like, oh, a pipe for $5. And it shows me a picture and it looks like this. And it's like, I bet you it's kind of small, but probably not too ridiculous or whatever. And then I get it. Or sometimes it's a set of, at least one of the times it came in a set of 3 pipes. And I thought I was getting all reasonable sized pipes. Nothing huge, but reasonable size. And they give the measurements and whatever. Getting this tiny little thing. And my reaction was, what the fuck am I going to use it for? I've actually found myself using them fairly often. Generally, when I'm really tired, and like now, and I know I'm going to go to sleep soon, but I want to spam a little bit more or do something or whatever. And here, I don't usually bring them up for gaming, but whatever. I just want to, drink in how big Poland, Lithuania has just become. Yeah, I know, it's a vassal. It's got to take another big step and drill into these, and then it'll become something kind of like Turkey if I can actually create the full union. I don't know how likely that is. If I aim for diplomatic activity and I have a fair diplomat, I have a leader there, etc., I might be able to, start inserting with the benign diplomats or whatever. Throw 4 more cubes down. Huh. And those cubes don't have to be cubes. Remember, the influence action is $3 per cube. I only have to pay 1. I may have fucked that up. No. Did I? I don't remember if I paid money for cubes or not. If I did, if I didn't, I made an error. And I have a lot of money. But yeah, you can just throw money down and spread your influence around with cash, which is really, really powerful. So, it's one of the, hey, why these aren't all that important. As long as you have piles of cash, 1 cube buys you a whole bunch. But it's not terrible that I get a free cube. especially early in the game, it was kind of useful because I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of cash. Anyway, just wanted to point out how fucking big this is, though. I mean, wow. It's stretching Bohemia all the way through the borders of what Poland was, into Moldavia, and we got the Transylvanians there, which I'm not going to be able to do much about that unrest. I definitely have some problems with having absorbed this. I think a vassal is less painful. Nah, they're about the same. So yeah, that's pretty damn impressive if you ask me. And we got everything we wanted to done. Poland grabbed its Lithuania. Whatever Turkey was up to, I think they kind of did. Austria went to war. Let's see if I remember that they're at war. I think England came up with a better solution by colonizing. They kind of screwed up by drawing that trade card. Spain is trying to cure their problems, I guess. I mean, Spain and France, they are basket cases. France is getting itself under control. But Spain is just such a basket case. And all that stuff in the north, I just can't even bother with it. And at the same time, I still don't have Aragon. I've got diverse religions in here. I just have so many problems with Spain. They looked like they were doing quite well at one point, but I don't know, man. You know, after they beat the English back, I thought, oh, things are going okay. I knew this would be a problem. I knew the Dutch are going to be a problem. But, wow. Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff happening everywhere, really. It's nighttime. We've got about an hour, not even sleeping, just sort of resting TV on. I sort of snoozed a little. And then started playing my raid game and fucked that up. So now I'm up here to fuck this up. Over on the polls, I look, and, well, I looked on here and saw, hey, convert area. That takes 2 administrative. There's not really much else I can do. And some money. That sounds good. But then I realized, wow, all my sort of religiously differing areas are actually part of the Lithuanian stuff, aren't they? Oh no, there's this one. But I think I can only convert an area if I own all of it. But I'm not sure what the ownership issue is here, so I need to look it up. Now, I was complaining about one lookup before, but this is one that totally doesn't bother me somehow. I'm not sure why. So, I look here. You have to own every province. Now, here's what's going to bug me. Own is not vassalized. But I do feel like I have to look own up. I'm pretty sure it's not vassalized. We've got control. I don't think we have own. All right. Well, I'm just going to declare that own is not vassalized because I don't think it is. But I'm not absolutely certain. And we've kind of been working around this issue before. I do not own all the provinces here. One of them is a vassal. What that means is I guess I gotta pass. And I can't pass. So I start looking at some of these. Not terribly interested in privateers. Protestant Union. That could cause all kind of yuck. Me controlling that yuck might be useful. And in particular by yuck, I mean the religious shifting. Other than that, I can get something. And it looks like I'll probably do the Evangelical Union because I get something out of that. And it hurts Austria. The Heilbronn League would cause each of us to gain alliances with 2 Protestant NPR imperial subjects where we have cubes. Well, Now, wait a minute. Do I have any cubes? I do. So I would actually gain something up here. Now, I have an alliance with this one that I made peace with, but I could also grab alliances with, like, you know, Lübeck and Mecklenburg or something. Well, those would be the two. So that's intriguing. I no longer have the alliance here. Do I have two alliances available? Yeah, I'm over videoing. I do have two alliances available. It's kind of intriguing. So each non-HRE PR may gain alliances with two Protestant NPR imperial subjects where they have cubes. PRs who do this gain a claim in any HRE areas adjacent to one of those alliances. The Emperor gains a military for each claim placed. All very intriguing. I could drop a claim down in Brandenburg, or Brandenburg is Austria's ally. Austria's Catholic ally. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is actually an appealing prospect, and I don't know who else can join, who else is going to be impacted by this. We have to find imperial territories. Spain would get to play in this. They would get alliances with Burgundy and Savoy, I guess, which is pretty impressive, to tell you the truth, and a claim somewhere in Austria. I'm not too worried about that. Spain's in hell right now. What other... I don't see any other cubes that are in currently Holy Roman Empire territory. I think I'm going to play this for that side of it. So the Heilbronn League, each non-HRE PR will gain alliances with two Protestant NPRs. That's the alliance I'm not allowed to have. But there are two available. There's only one place I have cubes in the Holy Roman Empire. So yeah, Lübeck and Mecklenburg are now my allies too. And wow, all of Pomerania is my ally. All right. But then I get a claim in the HRE adjacent to that. And we're going to put that down in Brandenburg. Catholic Brandenburg. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we're going to give the Empire one military for that. We kind of, you know, Austria's tied with us on the track. We kind of don't want to help Austria. But, you know, I mean, they're going to pull in a pile of points this turn. Now we go to the Spaniards, who are in the same position. And again, I'm way over videoing this. No this is not imperial, this is not imperial. That's the whole thing. And it's non-HRE, so the Austrians don't get it. Which means we'll take an alliance with Burgundy and with Savoy. Nice. And we get a claim in an area adjacent. That could be that area. It has to be an HRE area adjacent, which means it can't be in like northern Italy. But those alliances have a certain amount of power to them. A claim in the Rhineland isn't going to really help me, although it would get me closer to stuff there. I mean, I'm really not that impressed with my claim. Maybe I don't even want it. But there's no reason not to place claims. So we will put, I mean, yeah, we're giving a cube to the Austrians. But again, nobody really cares that much. All right, now we trigger things. That triggers the power play. How does that happen? I think it just goes up on the board. I think that's the only thing that happens with that. All right, let's move the Polish thing so that we don't screw up like we did with Austria. This is why I have to be on video. Part of it is I'm so fucking tired that, like, Okay, activate. For power struggle, move the upcoming to the active. Also place the tokens in the battleground areas. Already did that. The active power struggle will be scored. Okay, no big deal there. Nothing really happens because I put those markers out to help me. But it means it will be scored. We knew that. But we know what the next one is. Now, we would know what this is. Feels early. War of Spanish Succession. Wow. So I'm not expecting this to happen, certainly not in this part of the deck, but yeah, it might happen in the second half of Era 3. Flanders, Wallonia, Burgundy, Lombardy, Naples, and Aragon, Florida, Virginia, New England, and Canada. Okay, this is goofy, right? The War of Spanish Succession should be tied to Spanish colonies, not to where they historically had them. But you might make other arguments like if Spain had not gotten the Burgundian inheritance, this wouldn't really match either. This is a problematic situation that the older version does also kind of have as a problem, which is that it expects the world to match the history when you hit the new eras. It's almost as if both games were really designed as a bunch of different, I mean, the core system was designed in both cases, no question there, but that both games were designed to be played as individual eras, and then the individual eras were kind of stuck together. I understand that. That's the kind of thing I want to do with Imperium Romanum. And PRs with marriage or alliance with Castile, or 6 or more thingy-babba-loops adjacent to North America Trade Center. This is 6 or more towns. Score 3. If Castile, France, or England. So one thing here is, oh no, alliances with Castile. Yeah. So Castile is a player, which makes this problematic. If Castile, France, or England has towns in fewer than 3 of those areas, they each lose 3. So that's going to be something we'll set up for later. This one's clearly more important, but people can kind of keep an eye out on these guys. Right. On to the next. Protestantism spreads. Okay, religious ideas. Clusters of infectious spaces place a Protestant counter for armed in an area adjacent to the cluster of the same type as the cluster it's next to. Adjacency can be tracked across the sea. If there are more clusters in play and you have played less than 4 this turn, you put another one. So I've got 4 choices of these to play around with, and Poland gets to control them. And that's why they wanted this, so that the Protestantism spreads away from them one way or another. But this is a big cluster. So we fired that off in Bavaria, a notable Protestant hotbed. The Swedish one is more problematic, and actually I put that in the wrong place. I've only got 1 free pass there left, I think, which is here in Finland. I think that's part of this game. Let me check. Finland is part of the game. This area over here, the greenish stuff, is not. Greenish and brown. Which makes sense because Sweden owned Finland. They never, well, they made it into Karelia. So, I don't know. But Sweden's not a player, so that's okay. What I couldn't do, and I tried to do, was I tried to put it in Scotland. Basically, there's nowhere along the coast that can become Protestant anymore. And that's one of the 4 clusters that exist. There were exactly 4. The third cluster squeezed into France here in I don't know, what is that? The Seine. And then the 4th one I spread back into Spain, create a little bit more more clusters, so maybe Denmark doesn't, or the Danish one doesn't have to be expanded. But also, you know, what other options did I have? Aragon down here to try to head. What would be kind of interesting is to try to spread it into the Muslim areas. I would love to do that. but that's kind of hard. Okay, next one is Unrest Rebellion. Everybody has to roll rebellion dice for each of their provinces with unrest, following the full procedure described there, which means 1 die per unrest, except I roll a maximum of 1 rebel die. Now, this is interesting because it's not in my territory I roll a maximum of 1. I roll a maximum of 1, which includes my vassals and whatnot. The impacts, well, the negative ones at least, were soldiers being stripped away. France lost its last infantry. It's down to an artillery. Could have gotten a little bit worse. And money, the money is exceptionally, and cubes, both of which are really, really potent hits. So cubes you lose at the end of your turn. Hey, you're going to get, you know, additional cubes as, well, at the end of the series of rounds. You're going to get additional cubes very shortly. And if you used all your cubes, it's money. It can be a big monetary hit. But now we're seeing, you know, countries like France and Turkey, well, France, their economies are getting worse off. They're going to get hit twice by this. Also, the cubes being eaten up, the soldiers being eaten up, is very painful. So like the Spanish lost all their diplomacy cubes. I want military cubes because I need to recover from the problems that are underway right now. But that means no trade. Now I have plenty of money, so no big deal. I think I was focusing on military anyway. But yeah, ugly, ugly, ugly stuff happening to have these hit at this point. And now triangles die. I'll give a report on that. Henry IV died in France, replaced by good old King James. Just pulled him out of nowhere. We don't have a French ruler showing up here. And again, I don't know what happens if I don't have one, but I think there are cards that cause a problem if you have an interregnum. I don't know. Felt like the right thing to do to just put a crown on. Honestly, I think game-wise, it's probably better to just put the interregnum on and play the crown, you know, whenever you need it, which is really at the end of the sequence of rounds, usually, unless you're going to declare war or something. So that's the whole list here. This card is gone, the first of, not the first event, but the first one to get discarded. We have some new money on the privateers and the witch trials. And our new card is the English Civil War. This gives us the wonderful Charles I, who could replace Elizabeth, of course. Hey, where's James? James is King of France. Rule without Parliament. England scores 2 prestige, must exhaust 4 military, and gains an unrest in each area adjacent to the North Sea trade area. Distribute 2 more unrest and 7 rebels among up to 2 affected areas, and the player who plays this, I guess they do the distribution, and the player who plays this gains 2 military. Yield to Parliament. England loses 2, and 2 admin, and 3 military. If they don't have these things, that's fine. They don't pay an additional penalty or anything. And must disband 4 units, and you gain a peace. Obviously, the 2 military is better. The rule without Parliament is a bigger impact. Like, I think on England, it's a worse impact. But there's also the prestige play, right? Give them a couple of prestige, cause them problems. But I think overall, in general, declining to have a problem is a better solution than facing it head on, especially something like that. The English Civil War looks nasty, man. So I don't think the English want to face that. And certainly no one cares about giving them a couple of prestige. Of course, no one cares particularly about hurting them either, but if they gain more by doing one of the others, hey, that's awesome. All right. Hey, another branch. fell down on my house. You know, major tree limbs here. You know, they're pines, so they're not, but they're long and they're big, you know, and somewhat wide, like about as I don't know. They're big. But this one didn't get caught. I have one caught on the top of my roof, and I don't know what the fuck to do about it. I get my roof cleaning guy to deal with it, but you know, not while it's winter weather still, or spring weather or anything. I'm planning on having him try again to get some moss, basically a different moss removal technique this upcoming year, but I gotta get this damn branch off there too, and I could try to lasso it or something, but I think I'd end up damaging stuff, and I think it's safer where it is. But this other one fell, and it slid down my roof and landed on one of my tarps. I have a couple of tarps that are just decaying quickly. This was actually my new tarp. The other one's huge though, and I can't afford it. Anyway, to the Turks. Religious unrest left me with a lot less options. Instead of playing that cube to quell unrest, I would have played 3 cubes to quell unrest on this next turn, I think. Not sure. I took the Privateers event. So, I could fuck with someone else's, with a random merchant node and get some cash. That's interesting. It's a fair amount of money, because it's the top left column on the card, and it blows somebody's merchant. Or I could pay a military to move a pirate from a trade node, and I would gain a peace cube. That peace cube could be used for trade. That wouldn't be terrible, but I would like to get rid of my unrest. So I think I gotta pay a military either way. I can't pick this card if I'm not gonna pay a military. Shit. All right. Well, we took the $4, so screw it. We're gonna move this to someone else. Who's doing well? Turkey and Austria, or Poland and Austria. Well, we are, but Poland and Austria, not really appealing. We could put more pirates here. Not terribly exciting. Put a pirate out here instead. Okay. And I get a peace cube, or whatever. And now we have something we haven't seen. Native Uprising. Each player loses 1 cube from the colonist pool and gains an unrest in a distant area. You can choose to ignore one of the 2 effects, even if only one will affect you. I choose to ignore both of them, because neither one will affect me. So the Spanish lose this, and the 2 players, do they have the problem? It doesn't say on here. Each player loses and gains up. This is interesting, because losing this is easy. Gaining this, I'm not so sure. And it doesn't say who determines what's going on. Of course, there's also no auto resolution here. I mean, there wouldn't be a U in that case. So I'm guessing that Spain and England get to choose what their problem is. England, of course, doesn't have much choice. Spain doesn't really care about Virginia, so there's native problems over there, and that could cause issues. If that rebels, I think it just turns into nothing, because there's no country for it to become. I think it just wipes out the colony. I would have to look that up if that ends up happening. Okay? The next one is, as Turkey, I get to control both blue and orange. This is nice. So blue, I don't have much choice. That's over here. I can fiddle around with them to the best of my capability. But orange, there's one over here and one down here, and we're going to play up there. Pretty light. We went up here. And over here, we went into, you know, the Spanish have enough problems. We went into that French vassal in Luxembourg, I think it is. Try to degrade their position there. We can't hit Austria directly, who would be close, the closest interest. Sure, we could hit their royal marriage. I don't know what the hell that would do. Would they end up married to the Dutch? I don't want to think about it. Okay, and then the final one is injury sickness of plus sign. That had a couple of hits. First of all, it created a sickness in Sultan Christopher, I think it is. Yeah. But Elizabeth died. Now, the English had an interesting option. They're holding possible Prince Francisco. I just love that they're named. The names don't match the countries. I don't remember if... I think in the EU computer game, these named leaders, like, they're named advisors and stuff. I think for the most part they match the country they're in. I know in Crusader Kings they all do. Like, they match the name of the family they come from. There's like family association to the name. So anyway, Elizabeth is gone. Long die Elizabeth. But more importantly, Ferdinand II is dead. And that is going to trigger a Holy Roman Empire election. Get rid of this too. At this point. Well, that was an exciting action. Yeah. All right, to the HRE. Let's see what happens. I didn't check this. So we're in age 3. I gotta remember this. I didn't notice this rule before. The Holy Roman Empire can change its state religion. And I'm gonna have to put, well, there's a Catholic in there. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm gonna have to put a Catholic marker and waste one of them on there. But no, it's printed. There's no religion marker. I can use diverse faiths for that. But let's see what that's all about here. If all elector areas are Protestant, but the HRE's religion is not, the HRE turns Protestant, and the prestige, the imperial power drops by 1. If all elector areas are Catholic, the HRE's religion stays or becomes Catholic. Remove a religion token. If there are elector areas of multiple religions, the HRE ceases to have an official religion, diverse faiths. Okay, makes sense. The emperor is only allowed to change state religion if the HRE has changed its official religion to another religion than that to which it is currently the emperor's state religion. If the emperor adopts revolutionary ideology as their state religion, the HRE is dissolved. Yeah, I remember that being there. I don't think I can take diverse faiths as the Austrian religion, but I'm not sure. That might indicate a type of tolerance. Okay. Let's look at the elections. If the emperor has +4 or less, they do, an imperial election is held. The PR that receives votes from the most elector areas becomes the new emperor. The PR that has the most cubes, including imperial cubes, in an elector area gets the vote. Ties for the most cubes or highest number of elector votes are decided by the current emperor. Okay. I think we're going to still have the same, we're going to still have the Habsburg interregnum emperor. An elector area with no NPR provinces where all royal marriages belong to a single PR will automatically vote for that PR if applicable. These are alliances not with no NPR where all vassals. Okay, is there anything that's been vassalized by someone completely? Dead. And I've got to kind of remember the electorates. Now, you would think Saxony, who is at war with the Austrians would vote against the Habsburg Emperor. I don't think that's going to be covered, but we'll see. A PR that has its capital in an elector area gets the vote from that area if eligible. There are no such. Otherwise, the elector area does not vote, which means the Habsburgs wouldn't get to use Bohemia. We've been through this before, if they had it. Bohemia is not part of it anyhow. I think to be eligible for re-election, a realm must follow the official religion of the HRE if there is one. PRs that are not HRE members or those with interregnums can still be eligible. If no PR is eligible, the emperor title remains with the current emperor. Okay, I think Austria is still eligible, and because the religion hasn't changed yet, it might, but it's not going to change to Protestant. If the imperial power is less than +3 following the election, it increases by 1. Cool. Something good happened by having like an infant elected. I don't think he's actually elected. If a new PR is elected emperor while the departing emperor was defending the HRE, yeah, we don't have that. The imperial army stays at its current level. If no election is held, if the emperor is controlled by an NPR, which we are not going to make the case, we are going to allow people to win an election, but it would be very hard, and I would probably have to make up some rules for it, but I'm not going to follow that. There are some things in the game that I just can't cope with, and the fact that you know, Bavaria could have the imperial title for 5-10 years, or maybe 30 years or whatever, and not lose it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. But I think that it would generally trend towards the NPR empire, which is to say someone would have to have a really good argument, because they would have to really aim for it and get it. But yeah, there's in the original EU, I believe there's a mechanism for contesting the imperial title regularly. It's so hard to do that you basically never invoke that rule. But there is an event or two, for example, where Charles of Anjou, I think it is running for the imperial title. And I mean, technically, I think Henry VIII kind of tried. Not very hard. Like, I think there were multiple people in the Charles V ascension. Oh, no, this would be after Charles V. It would be Ferdinand ascension. Although maybe I'm mistaken about all that, because, you know, my grasp of history is more fake than real, I think. Fair, my grasp of, like, reality around me is not much better. Funny, because the idea of elected monarchs, especially from this era, both Poland and the imperial title, are very, very interesting to me. Totally intriguing. You know, the whole primogeniture type thing, honestly, it's always been, you kind of get this feeling that something like, you know, I don't know, Warrior Knights represents that or something, where, talking about the fantasy game, not swords and sorcery type fantasy or whatever, no dragons and spells, they're swords. It's kind of like a Kingmaker type game. I've covered it already. Where, you know, there's like a parliament that kind of has the ability to impose the kingship on people. The reality really was whoever had the power got to maintain the kingship, and multiple people could claim and could crown them, could be crowned and whatnot, but it all just came down to who had the power. You know? It was very seldom the case various means were used, and it wasn't just monetary and diplomatic, except if you count, you know, in diplomacy, threatening someone with trying to challenge the electorate. This is actually, you know, we're talking 30 Years' War here. This is when, you know, Frederick of the Palatinate is trying to claim the imperial title. So, yeah, along with the crown of Bohemia. Okay, on to France. France has been stripped of their military cubes. They have enough cubes in administrative that they could just colonize Angola or whatever there. Functionally, they could do a revolutionary idea. And that's interesting. The only truly revolutionary idea is a national bank. This would give them an extra point. Their loans are bigger, and they would lose their one debt. That's not a bad play. Cost me 4 to do. That might help. I also have a subjugate card, the great card, and I have the capacity to turn my vassal there into a possession. That would cost me just 1 cube, I think, right? No, I don't have a royal marriage. Yeah. Royal marriage just is the limitation on the size of it. That's appealing because vassals aren't as good. You know, like that vassal would come back and a town would go in there. But I'm a little worried because of the claim there. However, that seems like a nice idea too. I'm going to go with the revolutionary idea though. So that's 2 cubes to play the card, and it's an administrative card, so 2 more administrative cubes. That's cutting into what I want to tie for my military, so I probably can't do both things that I want to do. I probably won't colonize. And I score 1 extra. I do have the stability level. I score 1 extra if the idea has not yet been researched. That's why I picked this one, because it gives me extra points, but it actually does other good things. It clears out a $6 debt entirely. So I get, so this is the research action. That doesn't help me. I can do research for 4 anyway. But this gives me an extra point. So I'm going to do it. Plus I have a card, so I want to do, you know, I want to do what the card tells me. That's just kind of human nature. This goes away. And I have to remember now that France gets bigger debts. Hey, I didn't draw a card. This might affect things. I don't want to do English Civil War. Brilliant rebel commanders. This gives Oliver Cromwell. Neat. Succumb to the Pretender. Requires 5 or more military or 5 or more rebels or 5 or more unrest in your realm. Remove half of all unrest and rebels in your realm and gain Oliver as your ruler. Lose 2 stability, exhaust 2 military, gain 2 armies, gain 2 military, and draw 2 military cards. Or rebels on the move. Move all the rebels in one area to any area adjacent by land. You gain a military cube. Okay. If the English Civil War had been played already, by someone else, forcing me to take Charles, basically, this might be, this is the answer to fix it. And I get a much better ruler. Of course, it does create some problems, but it gives kind of an interesting situation where the English really maybe don't want to pick this, although maybe they do, because I could yield to Parliament and prevent the Civil War. But on the other hand, the only way you get Oliver for this, it's not associated with a country, the only way you get him is by picking A. And A has a prerequisite. So the English may want to just leave both of them out there until things cool down a little. So yeah, the French grabbed another technology. They're doing pretty well on technology, as well as the Turks, I think, right? Both have 4. Yeah. Okay. France couldn't take this, but guess who can? Spain. Spain has, there's no rebels, no rebel armies, but there's a whole lot of unrest. I could also take the rebels on the move, but that doesn't give me Oliver. And, nicely enough, a little bit, significantly later, actually, there was a financial minister, I think, for Spain, Olivas, who is an important, he rules as sort of a surrogate to the king. I have a okay king. Philip II is okay. How's he still alive? Elizabeth died. Philip II is still alive. What the hell? Okay, I don't know, man. Did I miss one? I don't know. I think I check every time. But I have the opportunity to pick this sucker up. So this would remove half of all my unrest markers all at once. Now I have a lot of them. I can cure 3 of them with my cubes, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can get rid of 3 with this. I'd lose 2 stability, no big loss. I'd exhaust 2 military. I have tons of military, no problem. And I'd gain all kind of stuff. That sounds like a win-win to me. So, yeah. So which 3 do we want to cure? I mean, I don't know. All of them? But we'll cure the ones in Spain. I don't know. That's 1. We'll actually cure these 2. Because I've got these military cubes. I've got tons of military cubes. And maybe we get to hold on to Flanders, which is important because it's a battleground here. Okay. Move half of all the rebels or on rest, and gain Oliver as ruler. Lose 2 stability, exhaust 2 armies. Well, not armies, 2 manpower, which could come from the armies if it must. Gain 2 military cubes, which will definitely help us, and 2 cards, which is kind of cool too. I mean, what the hell? Get a military advisor, that could be very helpful. And there goes Philip to be replaced by perhaps a Protestant what were they? I'm trying to remember what the term for the Roundheads were. Reformist, a Protestant reformer. I mean, Roundheads is the term for them, but how they identified. Yeah, yeah. So we may have a Protestant reformist in charge. I don't know, because the state religion is not. The state religion is still Catholic. Whatever we got, Philip's gone. That helps. And Spain is feeling pretty damn good about all this. Now, before I do anything more, $2 here. The final card of the era. The Iberian Revolts. And this is Philip IV. Someone else will pick this card. We're not able to. We already picked a card. We wouldn't want to anyway, I'm sure. So we don't have to take him. We can keep Cromwell. Castile, Spain gains 2 unrest in each of Aragon, Portugal, Sicily, and Naples. Good luck with that Naples bit. Or Portugal, for that matter. Put it down. Place a total of 8 rebel armies in the areas affected. Castile, Spain gains 2 prestige and 2 military. And the player of this gets a military. Or appease them. Castile... And remember, the Spanish don't get to choose this. They're forced into the choice by the player who draws the card. That feels weird to me. Although, I don't know. Sometimes there's political impacts that push you in a certain direction where the ruler can't go in a different way. And by selecting the card, you get that capability. But by not selecting it, you know, as the rulership or leadership of the country, you know, it could be that your king, you're not being the king. The king is being stubborn and strong-willed or whatever, and unwilling to do what you want them to. Appease them. Castile, Spain loses 2 prestige and must disband 6 units, and may pay 3 peace to remove 4 unrest. That's pretty nice too, except for the fact that they gain 2 in each of these areas. So we would have gotten 4 that would get replaced. Okay. These events flying around, you know, everything just slid at once. It's beginning to feel like, uh-oh, end of turn is coming. Austria, you better complete your war, man. Other people, you know, whatever they're trying to do, it's not so big a deal. It can suck if you can't do enough, but I feel like my concerns in that direction are a little iffy, because it does feel like if you start pooling up way too many cubes, you just use them on big actions at once, things like the research capability or whatever. So yeah, you might feel like you would have done more in a single turn, but the next turn you have a very rich supply of cubes, although it is limited to 10 each, so you don't want to keep a really big pile in one area. Plus, if we look around, Turkey's close to being done. Poland probably has to do one more action. Probably will do one more action before they pass. So that's 2 who are close. France is going to do at least 1 more. Spain's going to do at least 1 more. England's probably going to do a couple. So there's time. There's time. Plus England has an event and France has an event. However, the problem is this, but Austria, the person I was worried about, who wants to get their war done, they're one of the 4 who have to get involved to end it quicker. So yeah, England chooses to pull another trade event. The reason for this is, well, you know the reasons from before as to why I was doing it. I get another shit draw, which is really unlikely because England's good. But the reason that I'm going for trade, there are other options available to me. Like, I could go conquer Scotland. That wouldn't be too hard, because France is in horrible shape. I really want to do that, but I can't declare war until I have a crown. And I kind of want to see what happens with the English Civil War, but if I delay too long, I'm not going to be able to do this. So I may just, you know, play King Francisco of Britain, and, you know, go conquer Scotland with him. Finish this time around. Austria conquers all of Saxony, just throws the sieges on. I forgot I had already moved in and fought my battles, etc. This is really good because of the 30 years war points. I'm going to be skyrocketing up. So far, the power plays have all kind of been, I think, near Austria. Let's see what we've gotten so far. Struggle for the Baltic and Italian wars. Yeah, I was curious if there had been one for the Netherlands and the Burgundian alliance alone. But that was my own card. That would have been kind of problematic. But yeah, that would have been something I couldn't easily have reached, right? But, you know, I was able to move into Hungary and whatnot, where there were points. Italy, yeah, I didn't get much, if anything, out of it. But, hey, you know, it's right on my border. So these power play cards are really focusing on Austrian territory now. Now, the Spanish succession is not, even though Austria was heavily involved in it. Well, Flanders and Wallonia, Lombardy, Burgundy. I mean, it's not really, they're not excluded. And that's kind of the thing. A lot of these players are excluded from the power plays. They seem to be focused around the imperial territory so far. We could look at the other ones. Technically, we should know them all, but I don't want to. Well, I like them coming up, even though I know what I should expect. I kind of did not expect Spanish succession to come up where it did. There's two more. One of them will be Napoleon, and one is probably going to be the 7 Years' War. Or, you know, it's not really, it wouldn't just be the 7 Years' War. It would be Austrian succession and the 7 Years' War. So that's going to, again, be down here. The Napoleonic one will probably be close enough to Austria. Austria, by being in the center of the board, is just involved in all of these. Now, think about how this would play if Austria were Russia instead. They say it leaves a power vacuum, and I agree, yeah. You really want Austria to be able to play around and fuck with France, especially, but also the Turks, and not having them in the game in some form or another. And again, the old EU has them in the game as a minor, but they're a very peculiar minor. They're semi-vassal. They're basically considered a vassal of Spain, and Spain makes all decisions for them, but those decisions are under a lot of constraints. And so like an event has to come up for them to go to war with Turkey or something like that. Turkey can declare war on them, but or something along those lines. So Austria is kind of played by the Spanish, but largely is really just sort of like an NPC that's controlled, or an NPR, that's controlled by a player realm. And that works very, very well, because up until the War of Spanish Succession, they really supported each other quite a bit. And Spain is, Austria basically can't do anything much to support Spain. In North Italy or in the Netherlands they could. Well, to be fair, by the time of the Dutch Revolt, the emperor was being less and less effective or useful to the Spaniards. And in fact, the Spanish Road did not include, you know, it was territory that the Spanish had to maintain and keep their diplomatic alliances with. The emperor didn't really help with that, and he doesn't really in the old EU either. You might be able to cause some things to happen though, where Austria might be able to help a little bit, but for the most part, I can't think of them being very useful for Spain. But Spain can intervene in Austrian stuff and can help them, and that can be very valuable in some of those scenarios. Anyway, that's plenty of chatting. You know, I think, much as I kind of like the idea of doing one video per set of event cards, I think this is a good time to send this up. Beginning of halfway through the beginning of the first set in the Third Age. So, and interesting stuff still happening, right? Oliver of Spain. For that, based on the name, you know, right? In terms of like what the game represents, I am really happy to see that essentially the English Civil War and this radical new government, whatever, showed up not in England, but in Spain. Would that have been possible? Well, not in the historical situation, obviously. But here we have a Spain that it kind of makes sense in. It's much more religiously diverse and struggling. You can make an argument that, yeah, you know, but you just imposed Protestantism on everywhere in England. There's still Catholics there, and, you know, and not that the English Civil War was really a Catholic thing. It actually almost required the Protestantism. But I'm actually looking at this and saying the chaotic situation in Spain is almost begging for something weird to happen. And the Cortes existed, right? They didn't have power historically, but I'm not so sure that that would be the case under these circumstances, you know? I mean, basically how much of history and national identity and everything is just deterministic, right? And in the old EU, very much of it. In this, like in the later editions of the computer game, there's a lot more room for these kind of things. And you can basically look at Cromwell as the great man who managed to change shit a lot. You could say he's kind of ephemeral, too. Kind of like an Alexander figure, right? I mean, Alexander the Great created a lot of cities named Alexandria. He brought Greek culture and certain ideals into the Near East, especially. Not so much further east, even though he conquered those areas. And but no lasting empire was there. And it was more, you know, this veneer, kind of like the Moriscos, the Moorish rulers in Spain, that, you know, very quickly just dissipated. Not so quickly because Rome came to enforce the same, something similar to that same kind of concept. But, you know, you look at things now, and you got to say the Near East has not been Hellenistic for a long time, right? It's not Hellenistic here. It was, you know, it was like almost this thin overlay of an elite class that people were willing to accept and, you know, confess to that philosophical branch or whatever. Yeah, but anyway, you know, I don't know why I'm going into Alexander the Great. Oliver Cromwell was somewhat similar. He made a major splash and had impacts on the future, but they're kind of hard to put your thumb on and say, you know, this is what happened here. Certainly England does not in any way embrace any of the rights that, you know, that were advocated there, at least in the near future after Cromwell. You could say the Glorious Revolution was kind of a, hey, you know, we're not going to have a Catholic, but that wasn't the issue here, right? This was officially, at least, Protestant versus Protestant. Yes, there was a lot of Catholic support for the king as well. I mean, there were no Catholics in the Reformed side of things. But the Reformists were really, again, elite may be the wrong word for them, but it was a small layer who had specific power and privilege during that period, and then it just couldn't sustain itself and reverted back to what was kind of natural. But the idea was that I'm stating is, if you take Cromwell out of the equation in the English Civil War, do you get something similar to what happened? Do you get that Lord Protector type position, or do you get, hey, let's find a different king. Let's find a king, you know, from a German state or something, and just, you know, overturn everything. Or kind of like, you know, they eventually did with William and Mary. But those great men who change a lot at once and maybe don't have a long-lasting impact, maybe they do, I don't know. But in his case, it almost feels like something that went against the current, you know, and that's why he's kind of ephemeral. something that didn't really match where England was heading. It was a branch that I don't think would have happened without such a strong personality there. And that strong personality was able to enforce so much of his will on things for a brief period of time. And those people are not, they're not part of the current. They're not part of the current of that the national will is moving towards. They're a branch from it. They're an anomaly. And when you're talking about anomalies, well, they can arise anywhere. And I would say Napoleon is another one. Napoleon is another anomaly. Certainly, you know, France wouldn't have the Republican side of things probably would have collapsed into something else. But I don't think there would be another, you know, I don't think anybody could have stepped in and been Napoleon, just like I don't think anybody could step in and be Oliver Cromwell. So it's absolutely fitting that these people not be scripted in as a rigorous, you know, well, history would have to have this, but rather that they're a disruptive force in that current and may have some long-term effects, but they're also, you know, not, because they're not part of the current, they're not, you know, part of they're not intrinsically tied to the country in the same way that things that kind of flow, like the missions and such not would be. And if you think about it, Cromwell kept a lot of the English goals the same. The national interest didn't change because of him. Maybe, you know, in terms of the Protestantism, whatever it did. And in some ways, the national goals of France, well, they sure did change under Napoleon, I'd say. Just like Alexander changed the Macedonian goals quite significantly. You can make an argument that Macedonia might have gone to war with Persia and might have kicked their ass and taken much of what would later become the Greek East. But it wouldn't have pushed anywhere near as far as it did. Right? We probably would have been talking about a little crescent here that the Greeks, you know, that would have become Hellenized.